Welcome to the Secret Job Society podcast, where we interview people with unique or little-known professions. Join in as we peel back the curtain on these niche, fascinating roles and the humans behind them, showing how they found meaning and purpose in truly unconventional ways.
All right, everybody. On today's episode of Secret Job Society, we sit down with Seema Kode as she tells us how her experience as a respiratory therapist helps her encourage people to push past their limiting beliefs as a mindset coach. And it gets deep, you guys. Hamed, can you tell us how you discovered Seema?
Sure. So my wife is really involved in the wellness space, mental wellness space as a psychiatrist. And she met Seema while she was at a wellness retreat here in town in Scottsdale. And I actually met her there as well. And just kind of hearing more about what she does, I thought, wow, this is definitely a part of the Secret Job Society. I don't know of many mindset coaches that really get you into finding out your own intuition and applying that. So I thought it was super interesting. And of course, proposed to join us, and she agreed. So it's really going to be a really awesome episode.
Looking forward to it. A listener note, this episode does contain discussions of death and dying. Listener discretion is advised. All right, everybody. Welcome to Secret Job Society podcast. I am Kristen Kirkland.
And I'm Hamed Abbas Zadigan.
And we have our wonderful guest here, Seema Kode, who is a mindset coach. And we are here today to learn all about what it is you do. But where I want to start is by saying thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I think this is actually like a great idea. And I think children should be listening to this.
Yes.
Right? Because this is, my kids were like, well, I have doctor on my vision board because they don't know many other professions, right? So if kids could listen to this at a young age, then I think that's where they're going to learn like, oh, I could be this or I could be this. And those dreams can start young instead of just going to the standard,
totally. There's
professions that we know.
Yeah. What did you want to be when you were growing up?
I think I was like really unambitious. I didn't actually really know. And it's interesting. My brother and my sister are much older than me. Okay. They're respectively 10 and 15 years older, my sister and my brother. And so my brother became a physician. My sister became a dental hygienist. And, 10 years later, when I kind of rolled around unexpectedly.
Your turn to decide.
I was like, oh, well, I'm Indian. So doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? These are the three.
Standard.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, doctor it is, right? My brother's a doctor. My brother goes, do not go into medicine. He was much older than me. So he'd already been through it. He'd already graduated. And he said, nope, do not become a doctor. And I was like, now what do I do? I got to get into college and do something, right?
Yeah.
And my parents weren't pressuring me to do anything. So then I thought, okay, well, now what? So I kind of searched around a little bit, and my sister had done an application to become a respiratory therapist.
Okay.
She didn't do it. She got accepted, but she didn't do it. So I took her application. You had to write an essay. You had to follow a therapist. I took her essay and I submitted it and I got in.
What?
Wow.
She said, I'm doing this.
Wow.
So I was like, I guess I'm going to become a respiratory therapist. So it was kind of like going into the field of medicine without actually becoming a physician.
And RT, I mean, you probably saw a lot of people die.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get to breathing problems,
For sure.
things are not good. And that's why you're in the hospital. But seeing people die is very difficult.
Yeah.
Even though it's common. And I still have an etched burn in my mind of a person that I saw take their last breath. I mean, I see him right now, his face.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can't do this every day. So I loved critical care, which is like RT is like lives in the ICU.
Care,
But I was like, I can't day in and day out.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
It is. And it was interesting how much more difficult, how much more emotional I was after having children. And so I think I've experienced a lot of death and dying. And I think it's really shaped who I am and why I do what I do now. Actually.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And I think that with with respiratory, like you were saying, like you kind of remember, right, them take their last breath, and you really start to sit with that. You sit with that, like watching someone who can't breathe, watching someone who's really in that moment, the only thing that matters is being present and being able to take another breath.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is nothing more important. The person standing in front of you, which was sometimes me, was the most important person at that moment. And everything in that moment mattered so greatly. And I think that now in what I do, it's very much about being present, because that's what counts, right? Like that's what's so important. And I think, all of the people that I saw, you as an RT, and you take patients off of life support.
Yeah. So what about death then, and frequently seeing death or people not being able to breathe? Probably the number one thing we do without thinking, because we do so many breaths per minute. But what about that made you kind of see that it's all about mindset?
Like I was saying earlier, is that being present, right? Being in this moment is what matters, right? What happened, what's going to happen at that moment becomes very irrelevant, right? Because, you can't breathe, you can't think about anything else.
Yeah, you can only be present.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I think, when you think about death, a lot of patients have so many regrets, right? And that made me kind of wonder, how do I want to live my life so that I don't have regrets, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Some I think just, they got angry, they lost touch with certain family members because of issues and anger, and you see that. I had conversations with lots of patients near the end before they passed away, and they just start to tell you like what matters, and it's not the watch or the car, it's not, the size of the house. It really is the relationships that you have with people, the experiences that you have. And so I think that just made me realize that you want to just make every day count.
The human connection. All this talk of AI, I'm deep into that space. And I even give presentations on it, and I come back to the same message. What the future is going to have is all these things automated, but we're going to crave authenticity, reality, and this connectivity, connection. The humanistic side is always there. It's not going to go away, but I feel we're going to crave it maybe even 10x.
More.
I really think it's a privilege that you were able to bear witness to presence, like in its full experience, because like the only thing we really have is our breath, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know how you took that and transitioned that into what you do today.
Yeah. So I think that it was interesting that there were so many people that you witness, right? And sometimes you would see patients, you would extubate them, you would take them off life support, and you would expect them to go quickly considering their actual physicality, like the physical condition. And sometimes it would take a long time. You would sit, you would sit in the room, family members would be there, and you would think, wow, I'm surprised this person is still going. And you start to see patterns, right? That this person is waiting for something or someone, right? And how often did we see that they would be waiting for that person, that one family member who hadn't gotten off the plane yet, the flight had been delayed, we couldn't wait anymore. And, in comes the grandson, from college and comes to say goodbye. And almost instantly, within minutes after that, the person goes.
Energy.
Right? They're able to release, right?
So how do you get presence out of people? How do you get someone to be present, because I feel this is important to the entire universe to understand this concept, especially with this never-ending social media and phone.
Yeah,
such a great question.
Such a great question, right? I think that, you know, like you're saying, right, nowadays we're bombarded with information, right? We're on all day long, right? We're just receiving way more information than we can actually process at this point in our lives with all the, you know, technology. So I think it requires us to stop, right? To stop, to take a minute out and to be what I like to call an intentional thinker. And so you can call it meditation, you can call it intentional thinking. You know, if I said to you, you know, what time do you eat? You would say 8, 12, and 6. Right?
Yeah,
if I
it's
said
all over the place.
Yeah, right.
But give you an exact number.
But you can give me something.
Yeah,
right? You can give me something. You can give me a time. If I said
around
to you,
6 for dinner.
Yeah, right. If I said what time do you go to bed? You would say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, right? Somewhere in the
Sometimes
in the night.
midnight. Yeah. Often. Okay.
If I say to you, what time do you think?
Oh boy. Yeah. That's such a good question.
Right? It's either...
And when you say think, we're talking deep thought, reflection, correct?
Yeah. I mean, what time... You make major life decisions by thinking. But we don't actually put time aside to sit down and to think, right? To stop. And I think the important part about that is you start to filter out what is important and what is not important, right? We're running around all day. We're doing this, we're that. We're not present because we're thinking, right? You're not present because you're thinking about all the things. So why not take some time to sit down and think so that when you are now interacting with your child, going to dinner with your wife, you are actually present in that moment because you've had the time to think, right? And you've brought in that time the things that matter to you will start to filter out. The things that you actually care about are the things that will come to you when you sit, when you stop and you sit in silence. And so I think that for me, that's something that's always been part of my life.
And this is not necessarily meditation. Can it be?
I think it can be. I think people get scared.
I know.
Right? With the word meditation, right? They're like, I can't
turn it off. I just can't focus.
Yes. Right. And so I think I've kind of detracted from that word sometimes to say that, can you sit and just think and be in that moment and just think, just let the thoughts come, just get in your head, actually, right? Everyone's always saying, get out of your head, get out of your head.
Yeah,
get in your head. But get in your head intentionally.
Totally.
Right? So what I usually do is I'll sit down. I find first thing in the morning is always best when you've kind of not opened up all the different kind of apps in your mind, right? That are running in the background and sucking up energy, right? So first thing in the morning, and if something like, for example, today, right? Today, what was important? Today, the podcast is important, right?
Right.
So I sat down and I just thought about the podcast and I said, okay. And just let the thoughts come, right? What's important about this? Why am I doing this, right? What is it that I want to convey today, right? On another day, it might be that I sit down and I think about, the summer, right? And instead of just right away kind of going to, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And suddenly the thought of actually what's really important to me this summer, right? What's this summer, I really want to make sure that I'm present for the kids because my oldest one is in her first year of high school and she's at that age now where she just needs her mom to be her friend and to be her companion, right? And so I'm thinking, how am I going to foster that, right? So it's not about making the plan and then executing the plan, right? It's that we're always on that to-do list, right? And I think when you sit back and you start thinking, you start changing how you think, and then you start to create the life that you actually want to live as opposed to the life you think you're supposed to be living.
Yeah. I think the stillness that you're creating is providing clarity.
Yes.
And I feel like a reframe is so good, especially for me and a lot of people when they hear the word meditation. and you're like, dang, I got to be still for that. Intentional thinking is the reframe for that word. And it's like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
I struggle with the word meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
And by the way, everything you've said is not necessarily manifesting future. It's more presence, right? So I couldn't tell if there was some elements of manifestation. Is there maybe?
I do think that there is, I think in reframing, right? In changing the way that you think about something, you are beginning that process of manifestation, right? I mean, you can,
it's like
I
the
think,
beginning. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's another word that people are like,
it's another word,
right? It's kind of, it's a little bit woo woo, some people might be like, and so I think I also hesitate to use that word, but I think that what you think, and this is what I was saying when I was talking about these patients who kind of wait, is that, my own personal story about that was my second dad, my uncle, my closest, friend of my father's. He was our business partner. He got cancer. He was on palliative care. I was there. I was lucky enough to be there for that. And I remember, again, it was the same situation, that it was near the end. And we were kind of like, why isn't he going?
Yeah.
Why isn't he going? And so we stood back at the room, and I was watching, all of his family had come from all over the world to be there with him. And, everyone's kind of in hushed tones. People are crying quietly. It's, but his wife was at his bedside and just rubbing his hand, crying, rubbing his feet, like just there, right there, holding on to his hand. And I realized that she couldn't let go.
Couldn't let go.
Yeah. Wow.
And did he feel that? Right? We don't know what they feel.
Yeah.
And so I think, we had said, maybe my mom had kind of pulled her aside and said, you need to tell him it's okay. It's okay to go now. I'm going to be okay. All these people are here to take care of me. And that's what she did. She went in there and she told him that. And I left that night actually to come back to Phoenix. And the next morning he passed away.
Wow.
And it had been like
fascinating.
a couple weeks that had
There's
been going
an energy
on.
vibration. I mean, obviously it's like you said, you can't verify, but I sense and feel these things.
Yeah.
And I used to not. Now I do.
Yeah.
I have a much different energy when I interact with patients too. It's incredible. There has to be. How else do you explain some of these things?
That's it, right? How do you explain it?
There has to be.
And that's where I say, you can use the word manifestation. You can, but in that moment, right, these patients have a power to intentionally do something, right? Whether it's to hold on to life or to let it go, right? In that moment, they are holding a powerful intention.
Wow.
And so I think that for me, that taught me very early on that what you intend in life, what you intend in the next moment, right? You can create that.
Wow.
I mean, these patients are choosing their moment of death.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Honestly.
Right.
And so if they can do that, if they can do that in that moment, why can we not learn to harness that power of intention and just think about what we could do with that in our lives if we could learn how to do that from an early age?
I love this.
Think. Yeah. And that's the beginning of kind of dictating where you head and go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Your experience with that is so convincing for the person. Like, well, how do you want me to be present? Well, these people are able to choose life or death with their intention. Yeah, you can go start that business. Yeah, you can go. Wow, what?
You have control at the end. And as a physician, I kind of never really believed that. Because it's like, no. But I always would say, I never know when someone is going to go. A&D, we call it sometimes, allow natural death. But no, you're right. If you can control that, even against all odds, like you said, you were supposed to go in minutes. We removed the breathing tube. You're supposed to stop breathing because the machine was breathing for you, but somehow you're 24, 48 hours or waiting for that relative to fly in. It's wicked. You're right. And I never saw it or thought of it that way.
Yeah. Oh, I think when we go into medicine, we learn the science, right? We learn the science behind it. We don't no one's teaching you any of the other woo-woo stuff, if you will.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you talk to people in the medical field, you will hear this story again and again
Yep.
and
No, you're
again.
right.
So it's not,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be something to it.
There has to be.
Right?
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. No,
For
you're
sure.
absolutely
Oh, that is
right.
so incredible.
One thing that I thought of is like, what kind of spectrum of clients or patients? I don't know how you refer, but what's the spectrum? I'm sure you have some execs, but I presume not everybody is.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of
currently-
people seek this type of, coaching and intuition guidance and mindset?
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody.
Right?
That was going to be
I
my
mean-
next question.
So
yeah.
I mean, I focus on women
Ew.
because I think that I am one, right? It's experience, right? You generally are coaching an earlier version of yourself, really,
Mm.
right? You've learned and now you're kind of helping the next person along. So I think that, for me, women all my clients are women. But they range in age, they range in profession. Some are stay-at-home moms, some are physicians. I think that being a mindset coach or a life coach, that's what I went to school for, is you become a life coach, and then you kind of narrow
Specialize.
down. Yeah, you kind
Figure
of
it
niche
out.
down. I coach women, but I think everyone needs a coach.
Mm.
Oh, totally.
I think everyone you admire in the world has a coach.
Yep.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The CEO of the Fortune 500 company, the basketball player in the NBA.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. They have
You know?
tons of coaches.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They have
They
an
don't-
offensive coach, defensive coach, strength testing coach,
Right?
assistant coach, main coach. They might
Yeah.
have 6, 7 or more coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I think that, we hesitated to talk about, mental health and,
yeah.
getting help when you feel like you need it. I mean, who
Mhm.
doesn't want someone in their corner who's cheerleading for them,
Yep.
who's
Yeah.
kind of a third party? Okay.
Mhm.
They're not vested, right? Because your spouse, your parent,
Mhm.
your child, they have an interest in what happens.
Mhm.
Your coach is your neutral third party, but your biggest cheerleader.
Mm.
That's true.
What
You
a
know?
great feeling.
And I think they, if you have a coach, it's about putting a mirror up to your face and saying, is this the person that you want to be?
Mm.
Right? Because when your spouse does it,
Yeah.
you're kind of like,
You're just saying that.
yeah, you don't know what
You
you're
want to
talking
get in
about.
bed with me later.
Yeah,
You know,
right. I mean,
it might be a strategy used
Yeah.
from time to time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but it doesn't. People will irk you, right? People will annoy you. People will say things that
Mhm.
bother you,
Mhm.
right? Those are the things. Those are the very things that you need to be looking at and working on, because
Mm.
those are the things that have held you back. And so being a mindset coach, it's knowing that you can change that,
Yeah.
right? That you actually have the power to change that, and it's all in you to
For
do.
sure.
And you can be just a little bit better today than you were yesterday.
That's
That's it.
incredible. Yeah.
So
That's it.
refreshing.
Just a little bit better than yesterday.
And I'll say this as a man, women have it much harder.
Mm.
I mean, there's so many reasons, from physiologic to just kind of the way that they're treated
Yep.
in a male-dominated run. I don't know if society is the right word, but it kind of is. And then
Yeah.
in business, it's crazy. And I've seen this with my own wife and her journey, and how she finally left. She's also in medicine, but kind of finally left the structural of the health system and corporate and went on her own. And the mindset and journey, it's absolutely been an amazing, for me to witness all of this as a passenger. It's awesome. So I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with having a niche focused population. I mean,
think that's even
population
better.
health.
Yeah.
Yeah. A niche in your specialty.
Yeah.
And then within that specialty, I only see kids with this lung disorder, for example. I'm not a pulmonologist, but that's another example of a similar type of concept. So you never have to explain why you chose a population. That's just your interest.
Yeah,
So I think
correct.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I do have
Yeah.
one more question for you.
Yeah.
What have you witnessed in your clients, is that what you call them?
Yeah.
The people you work with?
Yeah,
Clients.
What have you
clients.
witnessed in your clients now that you're able to take your experience from being a respiratory therapist, understanding what it is about presence and what they can create with that? What have you seen?
You know, I think one of the biggest transformations I saw was this one client. She had been with me for a year. Actually, she's still with me.
Mm-hmm.
But she used to have such bad anxiety, you know, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and she would escape to her closet when things got bad, you know, and she said, Seema, I don't want to run away from my family, but that's what it feels like I'm doing when I go to the closet. I just feel like I cannot deal. I cannot handle anything in that moment. And I run away and I feel like I'm abandoning my family.
Yeah.
Even though she's still there in the house,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
that mental checkout. And so we worked a lot on kind of uncovering what would lead her there. What are the thoughts? What are the patterns of thinking that would kind of make her go down that path and into the closet? And over time, you know, we were able to uncover, you know, some of the things that happened in her childhood, some of the beliefs that she still holds about, you know, not being enough, right? Not being worthy, not being good enough to be this child's mom, right? And thinking, you know, she would have suicidal tendencies and she would, you know, this child would be better off if I wasn't here. And we all know that's not true.
Of course.
You know,
Right.
we all know that a child needs their mom. We're
The
not,
nourishment.
yeah, we're not 100%.
Yep.
You know, we're not going to be great all the time.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to be a great father all the time.
No.
But, you know, we've worked for a year and now, you know, she's a totally different person. She doesn't go in the closet anymore. You know, she's able to be there. And actually just last week, I think what was really amazing is that she's gone from being in the closet and just running away and feeling that sense of abandonment, to now really sitting down with her child and saying, you know what? I'm not a great mom all the time. Sometimes I check out.
Yep.
And I know that that's not ideal, but I'm still going to show up for you every single day.
Totally.
And I want to be the person that's going to help you down the road. I want to be the person who's going to help you when you're having difficulty at school. And, you know, with her husband, she's like started to accept the responsibility. I think where she was running, she's now not only not running, and she's not only facing it, she's accepting.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's, you learn to acknowledge who you are without apology. Right. This is how I am.
Yeah.
Right. And in that, I said, you look at the power that you have given to your child in this moment to say that she can now say, it's okay if I'm not okay all the time.
Yep.
If I have a crappy day in high school, I can come home and I can cry and it can be okay because I've seen my mom do that.
Yeah.
Right? That it's okay to not be okay all the time.
Yep.
You know, that I think, what greater gift can we give our children or the person that's beside us, right? Our significant other, except room and space to be just who they really are.
That's it.
You know, and not feel not enough or less than.
Yeah.
For sure. There's
Champions
definitely something.
don't win every match.
Right?
You lose some during the season. You're not
Yeah.
going to be good every day
Yeah.
at one point.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 100% correct.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about confronting the beast, whatever that is, her abandonment, or it just makes things less scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it brings us to the fact that we're all human. We all have something that we're trying to deal with.
Yeah.
Right? So can we deal with it in a way that's not going to put us down, right? And not going to, you know, make us less than. It just pushes you forward and says, I can be better. I can do better than I did yesterday. You know, I can And I love the fact that, when we go into coaching, I'm not giving advice. Coaches don't give advice. Okay. Coaches listen a lot. I listen a lot. And you ask the right questions, right? Because you have the answer in you. You just haven't listened hard enough to know what that answer is yet.
Or sat down and think.
Right.
Think about
Intentionally.
Yeah. Intentional thinking.
Yeah. That's it.
Now I get it.
I get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the satisfaction, it's incredible to make someone feel better, no matter how, whether it's massage or medicine or, how you set your mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Making someone or your own child by giving them a golden star of some sort. Making someone else feel good also it's incredible.
Yeah. I think that, you find what your gift is, right? You find what your purpose is. And inevitably, your purpose is tied to helping others in some way. In this world, whatever it may be. You might be a realtor who's helping someone find their home, right? Their dream home. You might be
right.
My husband's a dentist, right? You might find your purpose in solving the pain that a person is feeling, right?
Yeah. Totally.
But it's in service to others that you find your purpose. And I think for me, being able to make, someone realize their own power and to move forward in it has been, I feel very blessed and lucky to be able to do that every day. I really do.
Amazing.
Yeah, I really do, because I really feel it's like you're putting power into that person's hand and saying, it's not about your environment and everybody around you. It's about you, So yeah, I love it.
Beautiful.
Incredible.
Thank you so much.
This was awesome.
For enlightening
Thank you.
It definitely had an effect on me. And kind of, I think I go into certain circumstances, meditate. Oh, I don't want to do that. But I think the pause component and think. And by the way, we've all thought through things before. And when I do, I tend to do better in whatever it was I was thinking about. Exactly. So it's not like I've never paused to think. So, but I think the frequency to me is one big learning for me is just do it.
Yeah.
Just get more on that cadence.
Just do it.
Totally
do
Nike.
It,
I think it's interesting the parallels in both of our journeys, because I feel like you discovered presence through your experience as a respiratory therapist. I discovered presence through my very first massage. Like, I had not sat still for the first time in my life. And I was 21 when I got my first massage.
Yeah.
So up until that point, I didn't realize how I was just
going
until I was taken out of it for 90 minutes. And I freaked out because I'm like, it's possible to feel this well without substances or, just by being me.
Yeah.
How can I learn more of that?
How interesting.
So, I think that's so cool that your experience brought you here.
Yeah. Wow. That is really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
But it's true, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it, that how a lot of people don't sit still until maybe they, get a massage. Maybe. Yeah. Like they're just always something, always doing, always until you fall asleep.
And it's worse, I think, because of the distraction that is sitting in your pocket.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Don't ask my kids what I think what I think about phones.
That's a whole nother.
We had to fight. But that's a whole other podcast in itself. Maybe.
We're going to interview like a phone taker aware.
If there's such a thing, sure.
Seema, how can people find you if you want to be found?
Yes.
That's the thing.
Interestingly enough, I actually, it's just word of mouth, actually.
Okay.
My company name is called Pearls of Wisdom. And it's not because I have pearls of wisdom, it's because I think that every person I meet is a pearl, and I learned something, I learned something today from you and from you, right? That everyone has something within them. And when I'm lucky enough to have a conversation, right? One powerful conversation with somebody gives you just a little bit of a pearl. And I carry those pearls with me, in my life, in my day. You'll always see me wearing a strand of pearls.
Yeah,
to remind me.
Pearls, but I didn't link it.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, to remind me that, everybody has that wisdom within them. They just haven't had it drawn out yet.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a hold of me, it's skode@me.com. That's SKODE @me.com. But yeah, it's having an important conversation is how I've garnered all my clients, actually.
Wow.
It's I think when the time is right, you find the person.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're ready, they begin. I think it's not for everybody. And I think that when you come to somebody, there's a reason. People come into your life for a reason. Some come into your life for a season and some come for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think that, the people that I've met that I've been blessed enough to coach, they come at the right time. So
absolutely.
I'm there somewhere on Instagram, but it's just my private account. So you can, find me there too.
We know her now, so
we know her.
We'll help you find her.
You can contact these beautiful people here if you are interested in learning more about mindset coaching. Yeah.
Love it.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much. This was incredible.
This was great.
You. Thank you so much for having me. I, really enjoyed this. This in itself is a powerful conversation, and I think those are so energy giving, and I love, being able to have that opportunity to talk with people and just tell them that, you have a life to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really living it, right? Are you really out there living the life that you want to live? Because you really do have the ability. You just have to be intentional about it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah. Thank
Absolutely. Thank you.
Whew. What an amazing episode. Seema was actually our first guest, our first recording, and we had no idea where it was going to go. So we're super happy about this. Now we want to hear from you guys, the listeners. If you or someone you know has an especially unique or interesting little known job, we want to talk to them. We want to have them on the show. Send us an email at info@sjspodcast.com with their name, your name, and contact information so we can talk to them. So this is the part of the show where we want to share with you our wish list. People and professions that we'd like to have on the show. And starting off, we want to talk to a plane de-icer. And if you have no idea what this is, I was in the same boat until my flight got delayed. A plane de-icer, the overarching job is technically an aircraft maintenance technician. If you or someone you know knows an aircraft maintenance technician or a plane de-icer, please send us an email to info@sjspodcast.com.